in Silicon Valley. It's great to be here. And we thought we'd take the opportunity, you've heard from the congressional panel, but from two leaders of companies, and Joe now leading the National Design Studio as well, which we'll get into. Why have hundreds and hundreds of major corporations signed up to contribute to these accounts? So Anthony, I thought that I'd just start there with that question. What inspired you early on at SoFi to raise your hand and say, there's a great idea, we want to add to these accounts?
My desire to do it was very much tied to my desire to join SoFi and take over the company's leadership almost 9 years ago in 2018. When I was presented the opportunity to join SoFi, I thought about my life. I thought about the challenges in America of living the American dream and how I was able to sort of navigate through that, and how much harder it is today to make ends meet, to get ahead, to not just savings just getting by. Investing and growing your net wealth is more than getting by. And so when I joined SoFi, I created a mission that is very much aligned with exactly what this is. The mission of SoFi since I joined still today is to help our members achieve financial independence, to realize their ambitions. What does that mean? That means they reach the point that they have enough money to do what they want. They have enough money to have the size family they want, enough money to have the home they want, where they want, the career they want, retire when they want. And that's why we say the words ambitions. We purposely didn't say American dream because that's for our government, our leaders in our country to do. A company can play a role in that. And so it's all about helping people achieve their ambitions and get to that point of financial independence. We use a very simple formula to understand if people are getting there. You have to spend less than you make and invest the rest. Savings is not enough. That's just getting by. You have to invest. Well, this directly impacts investing. And as soon as you started talking about it, I literally thought to myself, well, there's nothing greater, more important than investing early, and what's earlier than at birth? So it was a no-brainer for us.
Right. Joe, you have a couple lenses here. One lens is as an extraordinary co-founder of Airbnb, where you achieved great financial success. You saw it from the corporate side. But for the last year, you've been now working with the government, right? These logos, this design, this app is being created by Joe and his team as the head of the national design team. So take us through kind of your personal connection, both looking at it from the Airbnb angle, which was also inspired by getting a lot of people into the game, but also, from inside the government as you thought about how this could help achieve the president's agenda.
Well, it's a great question. I think what I learned at Airbnb was the power of design to take an idea, a new idea, and put it into the world in a way that could be well received, that was easy to understand, easy on the eyes, easy usability. And in that context, if you go back 15 years ago, the idea of staying in somebody's home was a wild idea, and now, decade plus later, it's a norm. And I often think that the thing that helped us transcend and really push through was the fact that our design backgrounds helped us just navigate how do you communicate trustworthiness, how do you communicate excitement around travel. It happens through a browser. And so you really have to spend a lot of time thinking about every pixel and saying, okay, well, how do we make sure that the recipient of this information is going to, not be afraid of, staying in somebody's home. And so, in some aspects, this is a communication challenge. How do you take this new idea of a newborn getting $1,000 in their account and translate this into something that the average American, no matter what age they are, kids included, can understand how this impacts them and their lives.
Right. I want to double click on that with Joe. This president may be one of the great marketers in the history of politics. He often sees the narrative, right, before he even sees the policy details. It's no surprise to me that he had one of the #1 ranked show on television for a decade. Working with him in the White House now, you're working on a lot of different programs, but this one in particular, how do you, take us behind the scenes a little bit as you build the app for the Trump accounts, right? you know that on July 1st, when we launch this to the world, it's got to rock and roll, and the president's got to feel great about it, right? When those kids see it. So how do you think about that? And maybe, does he get it more than, even most in Silicon Valley in terms of understanding design?
He is the ultimate chief design officer. He's the ultimate. He understands product and aesthetics, incredibly well. And so I think that's what led to the executive order last year called America by Design, where he's investing in upgrading the way that the government presents itself, the way that storytelling is done, the way that usability of government services are accessed by the American people. Did you know that there's 9 .gov websites that half the country goes to every month? This is a high impact. This is the way that people experience the government, is through a browser or a phone. So why wouldn't we make sure that those experiences, those interfaces, are highly usable, beautifully designed, running on modern software? And so thanks to America by Design and the President's executive order, it's pulled me in and a whole lot of people from industry. So when it comes time to launch an app like this on July of this year, it's going to be as robust as any other consumer app that I've ever experienced, and the professionals that are joining the team as we speak.
Anthony, when we launch this in July, you're launching this is the largest consumer launch in the history of government, right? Over 70 million accounts could be claimed and opened during this period of time. So when you think about the design and the scale required, you've built one of the better apps in finance at SoFi. Talk to us a little bit about that challenge, but talk to us a little bit about all the other things that your company can do and that app can do to excite kids and to educate kids on finance.
Yeah, one thing that's really exciting about this launching in the digital age is that it's going to be more than just money in an account compounding. People have talked about the compounding effect and how great that's going to be, but the educational opportunity that this is going to create, we're going to have a connective tissue with each young person from the moment they can actually use a phone, look at a phone, until they're an adult. We can start to educate them at their earliest stages in an appropriate way for their age. Obviously, that will change in sophistication over time with video and games and other types of information. At SoFi, we have to be a one-stop shop to help you get your money right. We can't help you get your money right if we don't help you spend less than you make and invest the rest. So we don't actually talk about signing up for a checking account or a savings account. We talk about jobs to be done. We're going to help you save better, help you spend better, help you invest better, help you protect better. In fact, Trump accounts are a new type of account that would never have been created if everyone just talked about checking and savings. No, how do you invest better? You create a Trump account. So we will create educational opportunities to bring people into the app to educate them. Something I thought of last night, it's a new concept, but it's appropriate now, is we want the American people to have the highest FQ. What's FQ? Financial quotient. Sounds like IQ or EQ. Well, how do you actually think about financial quotient? Well, who is the best at optimizing the equation? Spend less than you make, invest the rest. If we nail that for people by educating them and making it simple and easy, give them accessible tools, they'll do more than just their Trump accounts. They'll start saving on their own. They'll start investing on their own. They'll convince their parents to give them money for their Trump accounts, their neighbors to pay them in the Trump accounts, their friends and family, instead of buying toys for their birthday, money in their Trump accounts. I can tell you, I started investing when I was 15. My children, a couple of them started investing when they were 19. They get it pretty quickly, and you don't have to do a lot other than make the app very usable, give them information. We'll have the benefit of AI to ask questions in a human type of way. I think it's an unbelievable opportunity to take the entire country and re-educate it on financial well-being and financial independence, and FQ is going to be the thing that we talk about a lot.
We heard from the governor on the last panel. It's hard to learn about finances if your parents don't own anything and you don't own anything, right? The real is when you actually put stock ownership in the pocket of all of these kids. You just mentioned something that I've talked with Joe about, so I want Joe to riff on. If I go to ChatGPT today and I say, ChatGPT, I start with $1,000, how much is it worth in 18 years if I add $10 a month? It will tell me. It will take me through the equation. on compounding interest. You know, I can ask it to explain to me like I'm a third grader. I can ask it to explain to me like I'm a sixth grader or like I'm a junior in high school. So now that this capability exists, Joe, how excited do you get on our ability to embed that brilliant financial, age-appropriate tutor right into the app so that kids can all educate themselves in real time on these accounts?
I love you're updating the product spec in real time here. I think it's a phenomenal idea, and the tool is right there at our fingertips. And so, I mean, on the website, there's a very simple equation that people can scroll through to see if you hold on to the money until you're 18, this is what it compounds to 27, and then to 55. And you really just quickly, the whole idea was, how do we just help people very quickly see what happens if you just hang on to your savings account a little bit longer? And so I think, you know, as we're shaping the app still, this is a fantastic idea, and I love being personalized to the age of the person who's using the app.
You know, again, this is rather new to me, but if you go to government websites today, you're probably not going to be that inspired. You know, I have Social Security, but you try to figure out how much you have in it, what it's in, how much you've contributed. Like, it's almost impossible. We're shooting for a totally different standard. Our standard is one that the president has set us against, which is how do you thrill and inspire America's kids, right? And so I don't know if folks understand how fortunate we are to have a guy like Joe Gebbia, who I can text with, who's building this on behalf of our government. That hasn't existed before. We haven't had a national design studio before that we're building apps on behalf of the government. So I think your expectations should be very high. There, of course, will be a product spec. There'll be a 1.0. But what we've learned when you launched Airbnb or you launched when you came into SoFi, you start with 1.0 and you rapidly iterate and make better. And so that's the expectation that I think that folks should have.
Yeah, I remember as a kid driving around cities, you'd see like an old drab gray building, and it became known to me as a kid, like, oh, that must be a government building. You know, it's like just kind of, and so I think, you know, unfortunately sometimes that's true for the websites of the government, and it doesn't have to be true. I think the president's been really clear about his desire for more inspired architecture, a more inspired physical footprint of the United States government with a lot of the EOs that he signed on that. And so what we're doing, and this is a great example of it, is we're imbuing that same spirit, but in the digital footprint of the government. And it's such an incredible opportunity. I think good design is when you can tell that somebody cared about what they were doing. You experience an app, a physical product, a website, and you notice, like, wow, somebody really put a lot of effort into this. The space is a great example. We could all look up at the ceiling and go, wow, somebody really cared about this space. The same can be true for government experiences. They can be satisfying to use. They can be delightful when it's appropriate. So we're imbuing that. I'm really excited and feel honored to be a part of Trump Accounts and bring that spirit into this product and soon the app.
Anthony, what have you learned, you know, running SoFi about interacting with young audiences? What are the things that we need to be thinking about collectively, that Joe and I need to be thinking about independently in order to achieve maximum success?
Sure. I think there's a couple of things. One, our product, our Invest product, when we first launched it, we weren't sure what type of people would invest. We have checking and savings. We have other products they're used to, so Invest comes along. And we thought we were going to get novice or beginning investors, very much similar to the people that are going to get Trump accounts and the contributions from SoFi and from the government. And we saw people buying, and we had a thing called, you know, most popular stocks, and it was Ford and GE, and we have a younger audience. We didn't launch our app until 2019. And I'm like, why are people buying Ford and GE? That's not like a young 20, 30-year-old type of thing. And we realized they were just starting, they only wanted to spend $9. They didn't want to spend $1,000 on Tesla or $2,000 on Amazon. We're like, oh, we got to offer Amazon for $1 at a time. We have to offer Tesla for $1 at a time, so we created fractional shares. And what we learned was we had to make these things super easy to use. Don't inundate them with tons of financial information, confusing them with comparables. Get them to buy what they like for $10 and just track it, and they get up the curve pretty fast, but don't make it so confusing at first. So that's one thing. The second thing is, at the end of the day, we're trying to make people invest, but we also want them to achieve the American dream. And so I do think there are other public and private partnerships that are really, really critical to that equation. And I can see it happening without someone laying out the story for me. So think about spend less than you make, invest the rest. Well, this is invest the rest. Well, let's talk about the spend piece. What is one of the highest expense people have? Homes. We have to lower the cost of homes. Second, student loans, education. We have to lower the cost of education, spending less. Third, medical. The president's working on, the administration's working on drug costs and medical costs. What's the fourth? The cost of financial services. We're making this free. Credit cards, there's movements there. We're trying to do things with cryptocurrency. So it has to be a holistic approach. This is why I'm so excited about it, because it aligns perfectly with us.
I want to thank you both, but most importantly, again, an unsung hero is the greatest Treasury Secretary, perhaps, in the history of the United States, and Scott Bessent. Scott, from the first moment I talked to him about this, understood this at a visceral level, has directed the most innovative team and task force against this, and our commitment and pledge, and I believe what you will see, is they're attacking this with the enthusiasm of a Silicon Valley startup. And so thank you both for all you're bringing to the table. We're going to make this one great.
Thank you, Brad.